Anyone following the news lately would have seen TV actor Charlie Sheen hit the headlines over and over again for all the wrong reasons. And last week, the makers of his hit TV show 2.5 Men confirmed he'd been fired for misbehaving. But where does that leave the cast and crew of his show? And why do they need to stop making episodes? Well, TV might have bright lights and famous actors, but when it comes down to it, it's still just a business. And this was one business that was all resting on one man.
Oh, that would hurt a little.
Are you picking your nose?
I had to. There was stuff in it.
It's the show that's seen in nearly 50 countries, under such names as My Uncle Charlie, A Pair and a Half of Nerds, and Charlie Sheen's Harper Boys. But it's best known by the name 2.5 Men. It's regularly the most watched comedy both here and in America, where it gets 15 million viewers each week. All up, its creators and the TV station they work for make around $420 million from it each season, making it one successful business. But it's a business all centred on one man. So what would happen if he disappeared? Well, without him, it would probably feel like it has a big hole in it.
There will be serious consequences.
It's a common situation in TV, where a whole show hinges on one person. Hannah Montana was a hugely popular show for Disney, but when Miley Cyrus decided to move on, the show had to stop. And the stars of The Big Bang Theory have negotiated huge paydays for their work because their unique performances make the whole show. But Charlie Sheen would be harder to replace than all of them, so keeping him working on the show was vital for business. So vital that his bosses were throwing an incredible $1.8 million at him per episode just to keep him interested, making him the highest paid actor on television. But lately, he's been getting into lots of trouble, acting strangely and saying bad things about his bosses.
I've spent, I think, close to the last decade effortlessly and magically converting your tin cans into pure gold. I'm sorry, man. I got magic and I got poetry at my fingertips. The only thing I'm addicted to right now is winning.
You borrow my brain for 5 seconds and just be like, dude, can't handle it.
It all left his bosses with a very hard business decision to make. On one hand, keeping Charlie on the show is risky. If he doesn't turn up to work one day, the studio still has to pay everyone else that did turn up. It's kind of like everyone at your school being told to go home because one person couldn't make it. Also, his bosses would have been worried that all his misbehaving could ruin the reputation of the show and their relationships with the other people that work on it. But on the other hand, firing Charlie would be an expensive decision. When a show is made by a network, they sell it off to other networks around the world to play and charge them a lot for the privilege. It's called syndication, and by firing Sheen, they were losing all those sales too, which would have cost them around $260 million. But in the end, they decided it was just too big a risk and fired him, shutting down the whole business in the process.
Would you get the door?
Back on the 2.5 Men set, all the people who used to work on the show have basically lost their jobs. And that doesn't just mean the other actors on the show, but the camera, sound and lighting people, the writers and even the caterers on set. So Charlie's actions don't just affect him, they affect the whole business. Which all goes to show, balancing $1 billion business on the shoulders of one man only works when he's stable.